¿Qué tal, amigos y amigas de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México? Nos encontramos en la Facultad de Economía, en el aula magna Jesús Silva Herzog, la presencia de Kari Polanyi. Bienvenida. Esta entrevista va a ser realizada en inglés, así es que pues todos preparen su segundo idioma que tanto hemos estudiado y pues vamos a platicar un poco en inglés el día de hoy. Kari, welcome to Grado Zero. We are very excited to having you in the program, and we want to make you a few questions. The first is talk a little bit of your father, Karl Polanyi, and we want to know what is the influence of his knowledge in the actuality.
Well, first of all, let me take this opportunity for telling you that I am so impressed. I am so impressed by your university, by your economics faculty, by the economics research institute that I was taken to by Alicia, and by the energy and but it is an energy and a work that is being done here. And what particularly strikes me is that the university seems to be a conscious institution for serving the society and for solving the problems of the society. I hope I am right. I think I must be right. And this is a function of a university as it should be, and unfortunately, this is not how the universities are now in North America. They are there to produce degree factories, diploma factory, for the benefit of students, but the university administrations don't show any sign of concern for society. So, question one about my father. Very difficult in a few minutes to tell you about Karl Polanyi, but the most interesting thing perhaps about him was that a book that he wrote 70 years ago has never ceased to open eyes of people to be something really important. It's called The Great Transformation. And since this crisis broke, with the meltdown of the banks in 2008, there has been a huge increase in interest in his work. But my father was, I think, an educator and a social philosopher. He was a knowledgeable economic history, economic anthropology, economic sociology, politics. He did not have any degree in any of these subjects, right? But so he had a degree in law a long time ago, but was a person that studied the society, that informed himself of the literature in the social sciences in order better to understand and to explain, and he was a great educator. But his work has become important, although he never had an institute, was never in university until the end of his life, was never part of a political party. And so I say that is a testament to the importance of ideas such as my father put forward, and he had a basic philosophy. And it really was, as I said in my talk, that fundamentally is the society. The economy is a social construct, an institution. We are homo economicus, one individual seeking utility and avoiding this utility, and all this is a fiction. This is not how we really are. We are social creatures, and we have to build a different kind of values than those that come out of the market.
Well, here in your visit of Mexico, you gave us a lecture and you talk about Polanyi, Keynes, and Hayek, and you say that Polanyi identifies some ideas that are good for society: pluralist democracy, national independence, or freedom from the imperialism, in industrial culture,
Yes.
and many other ideas. And the question is, how can we realize these topics to give a better, to take or to have a better society?
That's a very difficult question. I take the four themes which you just mentioned, the four themes which you mentioned, and I think we can learn a lot by following the themes. He puts a great importance on democracy, pluralist democracy. That means more than just a representational government that we vote for people once every 4 years or 6 years or something. That means that there is a participation of decision making within the population of various kinds. The second point is very important, and I think it stressed the importance of the nation as the basic unit within which we live, politically, socially, and culturally. And this remains so in spite of the increasing international communication, international interdependence, so-called globalization, which is very true. But nevertheless, it is really only by bringing pressure to bear on at the political level within the country that we can ever affect change. And if pressure is not brought to bear by social movements and demands, there will not be any change. And the governments will continue to be basically in alliance with all kinds of monopolists and business people and financial interests, which is not democratic. But the last point he made, I would like to stress, and it has to do with, I think we must return to basic issue in economics of use value and exchange value. It goes back to Adam Smith and Karl Marx or wherever. But we have a situation really where the market puts a value on some services in particular, which obviously are completely ridiculous. They in no way reflect the usefulness of the traders in the stock exchange, the bonuses, $1 billion bonuses given, etc. At the same time, the market undervalues services which are absolutely basic, especially services of care, services in the home, which are not valued at all. I am not making a case for wages for housework. It's not the point. I'm simply saying that the system in which we think in economics grossly distort value. And we have to come back to some way to bring some sense into the valuation. There was a time when in factories the boss would earn maybe 10 times more than the lowest employee. Okay, but this now has gone to 10, to 100, to 1,000, to some ridiculous income disparities that have absolutely no counterpart in social valuation. So I'm saying that it's a problem economists should think about. You know, the future is for you people, young people, and you have to introduce some new ideas into economics and not be afraid to appear to be uneducated by posing basic questions.
Okay, here in these times, we can see that politicians says that we live in an era of democracy and human rights. But do you think the actual economic models can realize these two ideas for to have a better society? I mean, with these or economical models, can we eradicate poverty, discrimination, and other human rights violations?
I don't think there is any simple answer to that question. But the first thing that strikes me is that the democracy which we think we have in the so-called democratic capitalist countries is very shallow and to some degree simply non-existent. And that was not always like that. But since the neoliberal times, we find that there are opposing political parties that offer themselves at elections, but if you look very closely, there are very little difference between them. No, and a number of people don't go to vote, particularly young people, and they say, what is the use? Because both of these parties are really offering much the same thing. So we don't believe, and in any event, these politicians are corrupt, and we don't believe that it is really democracy. The situation in Europe, very different from Mexico, I know, but the fact is that the countries of Europe in the last number of years, in Spain, in Italy, in Greece, Portugal, those countries, have really lost their democracy. They have a country that cannot print its own money really is in this modern day not anymore democratic. So they only have a contest between which set of politicians are going to carry out the orders they get from the European Troika, the European Central Bank, which is really all about saving the European banks. So democracy is suspended there. But I would not make blanket statements. I'm only saying that at present, in the heartlands of capitalism, as I call Europe and North America, meaningful democracy is in suspense, let us say. It doesn't really exist. And I don't want to be pessimistic, and I do believe, you may find it strange, but I do believe that in the countries of Latin America, there is more scope for democracy, there is more change that can come about by political movements than there is at this time in the United States or Europe. This is also true in Asian countries. India, for instance. There's more space for the exercise of political pressure by popular movements than there is at this time in the old centers.
Okay, the last question I'm making you is, you said in this lecture you have taken to us, there are many Canadian mine explosions.
Yes, mining companies.
Yeah. And I am interested to know if it can exist, the mine companies, without social and environmental damages. But because we have a hard debate with the Canadian mines companies.
Well, you're very right to question these companies. They are extremely destructive environmentally, and this is discussed to some degree in Canada also, you might say by NGOs and churches and good people who are ashamed of Canadian companies giving Canada a bad name. But really it is disgraceful. And what is even worse is that the government of Canada is totally behind those companies, defends them, and they have put at the disposal of these mining companies in Latin America all the services of Canada's diplomatic service. Its external relations have been told that what they have to do is to facilitate the Canadian business abroad, including in Latin America. And we have a very, very reactionary government there that supports the companies, and I hope that you can be successful in stopping them.
Well, thank you very much for the time you give us. We are very thankful with you. And I want to know if you want to say some words for the public.
I don't know. I think we've said enough. But okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.